His voice tight with concern said, "It's young Edward. Something's wrong with him, Ned, and—" "Wrong? Do you mean he's ill?" Edward cut in peremptorily, instantly worried about his little son. Richard nodded. "Elizabeth thinks it's the influenza, and she sent me to fetch you. Mother has already telephoned Dr. Layton. She spoke to his housekeeper. Seemingly, he and his wife are house guests of the Dunbars. He's staying at the lodge for the weekend, and he's on his way already. He won't be long." As he finished speaking, Richard saw that his brother had gone extremely white. "My God, the Spanish flu," Edward muttered. "Come on." He rode off down the beach, galloping at breakneck speed, heading for Ravenscar. Ravenscar stood high on the cliffs above the sea, which was glittering like polished steel in the brilliant light of mid-morning. Built in 1578 by Edward's ancestors, to replace the ruined stronghold still perched on the promontory below, it was a house Edward had loved since childhood. Now as he rode around the circular courtyard at the front and went on toward the stable block, he paid no attention at all to the grandeur and elegance of this stately dwelling, did not even notice the many windows sparkling in the wintry sunshine, or the facade of honey-coloured stone, aglow in that dazzling light so peculiar to these northern climes. He held only one thought in his head: his son, his heir, Edward, his namesake, whom he loved with all his heart. Richard had followed him into the yard, and as he dismounted he said, "I'll deal with the horses, Ned. Please go into the house. I know how anxious you are." Edward nodded and hurried off without another word. When Edward had entered the house, he had been struck by the overwhelming silence, and now, after throwing his outer jacket onto a bench in the mudroom, he rushed down the corridor, frowning to himself. Striding rapidly down the corridor, he realized he could already hear the sound of his 5-year-old son coughing before he even reached the bedroom, and he felt his chest tighten. He stood outside the door for a moment, filled with sudden apprehension, and took a deep breath to steady himself before going inside. Elizabeth was leaning over their son, and she glanced around as Ned hurried to the bedside. "He's feverish," she murmured, smoothing the boy's red-gold hair away from his damp forehead, "and exhausted from this frightful coughing." The child looked as though he was burning up with fever, and his blue eyes were glazed. Beads of sweat stood out on his face, and Edward was more alarmed than ever, realizing at this moment that his son did not even recognize him. He turned to his wife, asked quietly, "Don't we have any cough medicine in the house? Surely there's something, somewhere." "We gave it to him already, Ned, but I was afraid of giving him too much, overdosing him. It is rather a strong syrup. Your mother then remembered the raspberry vinegar concoction she used to make for you and your brothers. She went downstairs to explain to Cook how to prepare it. She said she gave it to you when you were a child." "That's true. It's made of raspberry vinegar, butter and sugar, all boiled, and like a lot of those old remedies from the past, it seems to work very well. I hope so." Edward looked toward the door as it opened to admit his mother, who was carrying a tray. Cecily de Ravenel exclaimed, "I'm relieved you're here, Ned," and immediately put the tray down on a chest of drawers. "I'm going to try and get him to take this syrup of mine. I also found another medicine downstairs that might be helpful as well. It's that creapin mixture for inhaling. I bought it in London recently." "Is creapin better than Friar's balsam, do you think, Mother?" "I'm not sure, Ned. We'll ask the doctor when he gets here," Cecily replied, and began to attend to her grandson, spooning the raspberry mixture into his mouth. After a moment, Edward touched Elizabeth's arm and whispered, "Let's go outside for a moment, darling." Taking her arm, he guided her to the door. Once they were in the corridor alone, he pulled her into his arms and held her close, stroking her hair. Against her cheek he said, "Do try not to worry. We'll get him well, Elizabeth, I promise." "Mr. de Ravenel wishes me to take you upstairs straight away, sir," Jessup explained to the doctor, after putting his hat and coat in the hall cupboard. "If you'll come this way, please." Before they had reached the nursery floor, Edward, who had heard their voices, was standing at the top of the stairs, impatiently waiting for them. "Good morning, Dr. Layton," he exclaimed at the sight of the doctor, and added, "Thank you, Jessup." With a brief nod, Edward dismissed the butler, who hurried off down the stairs. As the doctor stepped on...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.